Howdy folks, Tex Grebner here with Tex Grebner Outdoors. New videos every week, so if you don't want to miss out on any of your Tex Grebner Outdoors Saturday morning cartoon awesomeness, you better make sure that you click subscribe, check that notification box, and check my channel every week for brand new adventures. I love reading your comments, and I really do appreciate all of you that watch. As I'm posting this, it's actually the second shotgun season for Illinois, so that's going to keep me out of the woods for a little while, because I'm a bow hunter. I'm a traditional bow hunter. That's how I do business. And not to cheapen the difficulty of gun hunting, because it doesn't matter what you've got in your hand if nothing shows up. But if I'm only going to get one chance, I would rather do it with a bow, my way. Now, I strive to bring you the reality of bow hunting, the way that I bow hunt, and bring you to my cyber campfire and tell you the best hunting story that I can. But life ain't like the pornos, and hunting ain't like the TV shows. And that's not to say that those TV fellas don't put in a whole bunch of work. But the fact is, failure does not make good TV, does not keep sponsors happy. So I'm sorry if this week disappoints you, but it is the honest-to-God reality of the visceral mystery of the hunt. So I hope you guys enjoy. After sitting in the frozen darkness and the phantasmagoria, I was rewarded for my patience with a beautiful frost fire sunrise. The wind was in my face, and everything was so utterly perfect as I watched the sun come up. There was a frost on the ground, and the leaves were brittle and crunched underfoot. It was the kind of morning that all Midwestern bow hunters dread, because it was my first hunt after the shotgun season had concluded. Because when the lead starts flying and the deer start dying, those that survive get smart and fast in a hurry. But it was so majestically peaceful, the air freezing, my mustache frosting ever so slightly, watching, waiting, listening, and wondering if the hunting pressure might have pushed deer onto my family's property. The cornfield was in front of me, and the creek was behind me, and I was only set up about 8 feet off the ground. If I saw something, I knew that it was going to be close. But I kept hearing a rustling behind me. I had heard something in the creek, and then I heard a crunch, 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 dainty steps on the leaves, and I turned my head and I saw a buck, a small buck, but a buck nonetheless. And so I turned on my cameras as he walked down the fence row. He was shining because the water of the creek was freezing on his fur. I made my bow and my cameras ready, but I had not expected him to take this particular trail, and the irony was that this buck walked literally past a stand tree that I hadn't used in years. I grunted at him a couple of times as he moved toward the cornfield down the fence row, but he did not stop. He did not even give me a chance. He was completely oblivious, but he had walked within 20 yards of me. But when I realized that he was out in the cornfield, I was at least happy that one buck had survived the gun season, and I was also happy that my plan had almost worked out. But with hunting, you never really know, and it is a high-stakes game of whack-a-mole, and the slow descent into madness continues. You're probably noticing that things look a little different. I'm still in the same stand tree that I was,
But after I knew that there wasn't going to be any activity, I decided instead of just sitting here that I'd go get my saw, cut some shooting lanes, and put a ladder on this tree so that I can elevate my stand a little bit more. So I've got all my lanes cut, I've got all my cameras mounted, everything's good to go. Now he came through here this morning, so we'll see if he comes back tonight. No idea. Not remotely a trophy buck, but at this point, I'd be very happy with it. Once I had gotten my stand complete, I took my rangefinder and I ranged all around me for reference points. The fence was only 20 yards away, so anything that came between me and the fence, if I could see it, it would be in range. I didn't really expect to see anything at all because I hadn't seen any deer movement in the field while I was working on my stand. But with hunting, you never really know. And I figured, what the hell? He came out this way in the morning. He might come back in the evening. Now luckily, the cold had somewhat abated during the noontime hours while I'd been working on this stand. But as the sunset approached, it came back with vengeance. The cold is its own enemy. The cold is your great adversary when it comes to hunting in the later seasons, because nothing will sap your resolve faster than the cold. And as a traditional bow hunter, it is incredibly important to keep your hands warm, because you need to be able to feel your fingers. It's not as simple as pressing a trigger release. Watching, waiting, listening, having a heart attack every time that a squirrel would rustle the leaves. Believe it or not, it was a buck this morning. I had heard him behind me for several minutes, but I just thought that it was a squirrel. But that just goes to show you that anything is possible on a hunt in the magic hour of the morning. But it appeared that nothing was going to be happening in the magic hour of the evening. And as the cold darkness came down yet again, this hunt came to a close. But at least I had seen a deer after the gun season. I had checked my trail camera, and a few bucks had survived the gun season. This was the stand that I had hunted just before the gun season and moved at the last hours of the day. But unfortunately it appeared that all the deer movement had gone nocturnal, which is pretty traditional for what deer do after they've been shot at by bang sticks. But it was a rugged hillside covered in thorn trees, and I had in fact taken time and cut in a few shooting lanes. It was a warm fall evening, which was pleasant, but it also meant that deer movement was highly unlikely. The landowner was cutting up his field, preparing it for lying fallow over winter, working the corn stalks into the ground. And I didn't have high expectations for this hunt, but I was just happy to be in the woods yet again, experiencing the sacred and visceral mystery of the hunt. Watching, waiting, listening, the cracking of twigs or the honking of geese exciting me. As the sun began to set, there was a beautiful rosy orange hue that was cast over everything, and the magic hour was approaching, and the air began to cool. And I knew if something was going to happen, it was going to need to happen soon. But with hunting, you never really know. Now there's a high likelihood that this will be yet another empty season. And I've made peace with that, because if I get a deer, I want to have earned it. Sometimes everything lines up just perfect, and I screw it up. Sometimes nothing lines up at all. With hunting, you never really know. And as I've said, after the first gun season, hunting gets even more difficult. And as the sun came down even further, I realized that the season was going to get even more difficult with the field being tilled under. While the sunrise is utterly beautiful and absolutely breathtaking, it does wash away the mystery and phantasmagoria of the darkness and leave us with cruel reality. Now, I have had several chances this season so far, and I really truly can't complain, because it's arguably been the best deer season of my bow hunting career. And people wonder why I don't gun hunt. And the answer is because, one, it's illegal to bow hunt during the gun seasons in Illinois. The other answer is the only deer that I killed with a shotgun, I killed within bow range. And I'm a bow hunter. It's what I do. It's the way that I'm wired, because I'm just kinky like that. I'm kinky in other ways too, but for the purposes of the discussion, I'm a bow hunting freak, and I do business the traditional way. So I can't really complain about not having chances, because part of why I went to traditional was because I almost never even saw a deer in my past seasons, and it doesn't matter how much your gear costs if nothing shows up. You could sit there with your phone in your hand and have as much chance some days of killing a deer as if you sat there with a fancy compound bow. But the rut was over. The first shotgun season was over, and according to my trail camera pictures, the deer had gone completely nocturnal. Now, some of the good bucks had survived, and some probably didn't. But all the pictures were after dark. And so this was a long day in the stand, because there's always that chance that something might show up during the daylight, because with hunting it is a visceral mystery and you never really know. But at the same time, you're always caught between a rock and a hard place, the hammer and the anvil, because you've got to have figured out where the deer are going to be at different stages during the season, because everybody loves to hunt the rut, because deer just get stupid in the rut. But when it comes to after the rut, that's when the real hard part starts. Now, it was an unseasonably warm day for the end of November, and so I wasn't hopeful. But as the sun sank lower and lower, I thought maybe, just maybe, they would come out of their beds and cross the fence line in front of my stand, watching, waiting, listening, and wondering, and reveling in the joy of failure, because I would rather go home empty-handed, having done my best according to my own moral compass, than simply have it handed to me where it wouldn't mean a damn thing. And so I am perfectly willing, as a traditional bow hunter, to have another empty season, knowing that I had done my best and that the game got away. My goal has never been, and is never going to be, that of bringing you the slaughter of majestic animals for the purposes of entertainment on high-definition media. It's just not the way I do business. It's not what I want to do. My goal is to bring you into the woods with me and tell you a hunting story at my cyber campfire that is Tex Grebner Outdoors. It was an unseasonably warm day for late November, And I was sitting in my Christmas tree blind up on the ridge above the cornfield, and I was wondering, where in the hell had they all gone? Because I was watching the cornfield literally all afternoon, and I had seen absolutely no movement. Not a thing. Occasionally a squirrel would rustle in the tall weeds or scramble up a tree trunk, but there was absolutely nothing. And I figured that it was most likely due to the fact that they'd been shot at by guns, it was warm, the rut was over, but I was wondering where on earth I might find them. I know that they exist. I know they are tucked away somewhere. But where in the hell could they be? The hunt is a visceral mystery. And I contemplated these things while I was sitting, watching, waiting, and listening to the wind blow through my ears, never knowing. But you see, it's been a really great season up to this point. The best season of my entire career, as I've said. And I've had chances, but you see, I don't want to do things the easy way. Now you could very well make a case, and it would be true, that I have self-worth issues, and that is why I make a point of doing things the hard way to try and achieve more validation. And that would be true. I'll own it. But as the sun sank lower and lower, against my better judgment, I got very, very excited as the birds flitted around my cowboy hat. The sun sank, the wind picked up, and the temperature dropped. The magic hour was upon me. And I thought sure that there would be a deer happening down my trail right in front of me on the way down to the cornfield. But it was not to be. So here I am. I just got done editing today's hunt. So after a long day of sitting, doing nothing, and seeing nothing, here I am on my spinning bike in my living room because, quite frankly, private land whitetail hunting is not particularly strenuous. But the best part of the season is over. The rut's done. I had some chances during the rut. Sometimes I was in the wrong place at the right time. Sometimes I probably should have shot, and I didn't. Other times I feel no shame about not shooting because I wasn't good with what I was seeing. But as I say, the hunt is a visceral mystery, and there's no knowing what may happen. And while I know that there is all likelihood of me having another empty season, while whitetail hunting is not necessarily an affair of endurance, the same way that sheep hunting or elk hunting can be, honestly, I take great pride in the fact that I am willing to go out when it gets Arctic cold outside. And so this season is in itself a bit of an act of endurance. Because while it was unseasonably warm this week, for the time of year that it is, I know that Old Man Winter is going to be dogging my heels soon enough. And it is in itself an act of endurance. Because when that cold starts to creep into your hands, it's unlike any other feeling. It's a primal terror. And I know that it's coming. And I know that I will be there. It's an act of endurance because I want to hunt as long as I possibly can. And no matter what, I will be there. And I have no problem going home empty-handed. because we've got another gun season coming up here soon. And the rut's over. The best part of the season is done. It's over with. It is history. And I can't change that. All I can do is go out each day that I'm able and see if something happens. Because I don't know where the deer are going to be, and I don't know where they even are. They're basically nocturnal, and you can't make a wild and free animal do something other than what it wants to do. That's the honest-to-God, fair chase bow hunting truth. Trad life ain't just a hashtag. If you're about the trad life, then you gotta be okay with the fact that you're gonna have empty seasons. Again, most of the time, it doesn't matter what you've got in your hand, because if nothing shows up, nothing shows up. And I can't change that, and sure, I don't like going home empty-handed. But liking something and understanding it as a reality are two different things. Because winter, true winter, is going to be coming up. And by God, I'm going to be there. I have sat in a tree stand so damn long that I have literally had my own tears freeze on my cheeks because I was too stubborn to get down. And I have screamed into the wind. I've done it, and I've seen it, and I know what it is. But the sad thing is, at this point, with the rut being done, what it's really going to take is that bitter, god-awful cold of a Midwestern winter to bring those deer out from wherever they're hiding and force them to move. While whitetail hunting is not a strenuous endeavor, I feel that it is a little bit of an act of endurance to see just how far into the god-awful ass end of winter that I am willing to take my hunts. Because that's just the way that it goes. That's all there is to it. Winter is coming, and I will be there. Because that's the way that it's going to be. Sure, I would have loved to have killed a deer opening day. I would have loved to have got that nice buck that was right in front of my tree stand a couple of weeks ago. But he was further than I wanted to shoot at him, and I would rather never shoot than sling a bad arrow. That's just the way that I do business. That's just the way that I operate. And I'm not saying that it's not possible that I might take or make a bad shot. Because that's just the way that it goes sometimes. There's things that are beyond your control. But I don't intend on compromising my moral compass or my ethics or the way that I want to go about things for anybody or for any reason. But winter's coming, and who knows, maybe by the time Christmas rolls around I might get one on the ground. But if I don't, I know you guys will let me hear about it, and you'll be madder than hell about all the deer that I didn't shoot earlier in the season. But guess what? I didn't. You might be bored as hell watching it, but guess what? I'm bored as hell living it. But that's just the way that hunting works. That's the way that it goes. And truthfully, I don't care. Because if it were easy, it wouldn't mean anything. I know that I could have killed that buck at 30 yards with a compound, just put my pin on his heart and done it. But he wasn't close enough. I want an intimacy with nature that only comes with getting close. Life is a violent, beautiful, visceral mystery. And I intend on living it. So with winter coming on soon, and the cold coming soon. I'm not necessarily looking forward to ending the season empty. And I'm not necessarily looking forward to sitting in a tree watching my breath freeze my fletching solid. But I know that I'm going to be there, because that's the way that it works, and I take great pride in hunting when other guys just won't go out. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's not easy to be motivated to go out and sit and not see shit. It's not easy. But I'm gonna, and it's gonna happen, and I'm gonna see a lot of awful pretty stuff, and the wood fairies will continue to vex me, because the hunt is a sacred and visceral mystery, and there's no knowing what may happen on a hunt. All types of hunting have their own levels of endurance. It just happens that whitetail hunting is not a sexy kind of endurance. But that's why here I am. Just got done editing today's hunt. Here I am on the spinning bike in the living room looking at a camera, basically talking to myself. The slow descent into madness continues.
As always, God bless all my sportsmen of America. Join the NRA to protect our rights. Please check out my friends over at SOETacticalgear.com. Thank you very much to those of you involved in law enforcement and those of you serving in the military. And thanks for watching Tex Grebner Outdoors. It's going to be getting cold, and I'm going to be there.